Well, if you care about your pets in that incident where that dog food and cat food was killing so many of them, dozens of animals were killed, you'll be pleased to know that there are indictments now of three companies, two Chinese companies whose names I'm not going to even try to pronounce, and the Las Vegas-based Chemnutra Incorporated, charged in two separate but related indictments about those incidences.
Okay, and let's look at the markets here. We're about 6 minutes away from the close. The markets have turned lower in the last couple of hours, and we're seeing an acceleration to the downside with the Dow Jones Industrials lower by 75 points. Even Disney's come down. It's still up about 4 1/3%, but it had been up much higher. And so we've got weakness with McDonald's, 3M, Merck, Pfizer, AT&T, and it's a tough day overall here. ExxonMobil down $1 when you see oil pulling back too, David.
And we should mention that NASDAQ is down by about 3 times as much percentage-wise. It's down 30 points today, off about 1.5 percentage points. So it's a bad day for tech stocks as well. Let's call in our Fox panel to talk about it. Pat, what's going on?
Well, I think this morning you had to pay attention to there were some pretty poor productivity numbers, and there's also pressure on wages on the way up, and that's inflationary, and I think there's some fear.
Let's just mention, by the way, productivity numbers means the amount of stuff that can be produced by people and how quickly they can produce it.
And that's been really good for us. We've had great productivity numbers, which is why the inflation numbers have been so moderate as we've gone through these higher oil prices. But if we're starting to lose productivity and there's pressure on wages, it's going to put pressure on the Fed not to give any decreases in interest rates. So I think the market has to be concerned about that.
Yeah, but the dollar was lower too, and that's always certainly an indication that it's not today. I mean,
since the Fed cut rates, that last 50 basis point cut last week, the dollar has rallied several percent against the euro. It's actually firming up.
Why?
It's probably oversold. The dollar probably needs to bounce. I don't know if that's the start of anything big, but a lot of people, I think including Peter, said that with the rate cut, the dollar was going to collapse. As it will. It actually went the other way. It's still
did I just hear it will? Peter, you can say that for the next 1,000 years, dude.
Hey, you know, look, my timing has been great for me and great for my clients. I know you guys are talking about. You know, we talked about it yesterday. Look at gold. Gold has recouped better than 50% of yesterday's losses, whereas the Dow is down again, and it's going to close on the lows again. This is lousy technical action. It typifies a bear market.
But you know what? There are other ways. There are many ways, Pat, to make money in a market, not just by jumping into gold if inflation's high and the markets aren't looking that good. I mean, you know, Sandra Smith was here talking about certain ETFs that short certain indices.
Absolutely. You can short using ETFs, but you can also take a diversified portfolio approach, which is what I tend to do. And I do have gold and commodities in a portfolio. And in a period where the stocks are having some difficulty, you can offset that with some earnings out of your gold and your commodities. So a diversified portfolio can really help.
You know, also on the productivity, you know, the reason that inflation appears to be in check, and it only appears for people who are looking at these government numbers, it's got nothing to do with productivity. The productivity numbers are also kind of phony. It's because of government accounting. Inflation is not in check. It is out of control.
It's been that way for 100 years.
You know, Peter, you are absolutely entitled to your own opinion. What you're not entitled to is your own facts.
No, these are the facts.
So you have to. So you have to get over that. We don't live in
I have
Peter
the facts
world.
on my side.
We live in a world where there are.
Did you look at the polls?
Excuse me. I will tell you this, Peter. Just a moment. I will tell you this, Tom. You can't tell us there's no inflation. You know, Charles Plosser of the Fed, Richmond Fed, is saying this is a big issue. Anybody who goes to a market sees it's a big issue.
And the Fed created this. They put themselves between a rest. They put themselves between a rock and a hard place. They mismanaged it. They didn't do the job right. They mismanaged it. They crushed the housing market. Now they find themselves caught between two things: rescuing the housing market or controlling inflation. They can't do both.
However,
I want to get back to the reality of inflation.
Hold on, Peter. Explain to us for a second why it is important that when you improve productivity, there is downward pressure on inflation.
Yeah, because you get more output of goods and services, you know, per hour of workers.
And so when you have computers and stuff that allows us to do that, it's better for the whole
economy. That would be true if it were actually happening.
Hold on, Peter.
It's not happening.
Right, and this is a very important point because while we see food and energy prices rising in the headline inflation numbers, in the core we don't see such an increase, and it includes items like productivity enhancing equipment like computers and software, which allow us to be more productive and enable us to keep ahead of inflation. You're
It's not
absolutely right. Look,
happening.
we can't eat computers. It's true. But let's understand something. This inflation problem that we're talking about is really an oil problem. We've seen oil
No,
go
it's
from
a food
10.
problem.
It's food.
It's a
because
money
we have
creation
the whole
problem.
biofuel thing going on. So we're using our corn and our other
That's
commodities
right.
to produce
You know, Liz, you
fuel.
have it right, and the moderating thing has been up to this point productivity numbers and exports.
You
And if
guys
the
can
productivity and
rationalize
productivity
this.
numbers are slipping, it's going to be inflationary, and it's going to make the food and oil inflation much more important.
You guys can rationalize inflation away all you want. Meanwhile, you know, I'm investing in all the things that are going up because of inflation.
That's
So you can,
terrific.
you know, you can ignore it to your financial
Peter,
peril.
I've been listening to you for 15 years.
You haven't been listening to me for 15 years.
This year. Once.
But if you had been listening to me, you'd be very rich.
Actually, gold has been a very bad hedge against inflation. Stocks
what do you
over
think?
history
Tripled.
have performed far better
Gold has
than
really
gold.
lagged
Gold
other
has been a
commodities.
terrible hedge
Gold is
against
only catching up
inflation.
very recently.
Very recently. You're
Right.
absolutely right, Pat.
Here we go. The market is closing. We're about 15 seconds away from the closing bell. There it is. The Dow